Can I make one more suggestion for the police department? I think that the police department's dress code should include fuzzy pink handcuffs and leather chaps.
Sir, your 5 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Black lists, black ops, covert wars, overt surveillance. Are you fed up? Sound off with Saturday Session on 970 WMAY, the news and talk of Springfield.
This is a very important conversation, and hopefully it'll arm you with certain kind of knowledge about what the elite, what the central planners think about weapons. And maybe it'll also help you better understand why they are moving so rapidly and so furiously to redefine certain weapons as assault weapons or as military-grade weapons. It's called Tragedy and Hope. It's this book by Carroll Quigley. Now, admittedly, I haven't read the whole thing. I'm working my way through it. It's 1,300 pages long. Now, the book, it's quite incredible, actually. Very complex, multidimensional, and interdisciplinary. Carroll Quigley writes in the book, in the section called The Organization of Power, quote, by the organization of power in a society, we mean the ways in which obedience and consent or acquiescence are obtained. The close relationship between levels can be seen from the fact that there are 3 basic ways to win obedience: by force, by buying consent with wealth, and by persuasion. He continues, he says, when weapons are cheap to get and so easy to use that almost anyone can use them after a short period of training, armies are generally made up of large masses of amateur soldiers. Such weapons we call amateur weapons, and such armies we might call mass armies of citizen soldiers. All right, so think about that for a second. So when weapons are readily available, the military power lies in the hands of the citizen soldier. Okay, we got that. But Quigley continues, when weapons were expensive and required long training in their use, such weapons we call specialist weapons. Periods of specialist weapons are generally periods of small armies of professional soldiers, usually mercenaries. In a period of specialist weapons, the minority who has such weapons can usually force the majority who lack them to obey. Thus, a period of specialist weapons tends to give rise to a period of minority rule and authoritarian government.
We have as a basis for action that we take a congressional statute that allows us to operate against al-Qaeda and associated entities, not only in Pakistan or not only in Afghanistan, but in other parts of the world. We say that we only take these kinds of actions when there's an imminent threat, when capture is not feasible, and when we are confident that we're doing so in a way that's consistent with federal and international law. I mean, as I said, I think we laid it out, fairly well.
Now, think about that. Right now in this country, there's a movement by some people to label semi-automatic rifles, quote, specialist weapons, by using the term military grade or even labeling them assault weapons. Who are some of these people? I don't know.
Military assault weapons should be in the hands of the military. And if you need a 100-round clip to put in your military weapon to go out and shoot a deer, maybe you ought to stick to fishing. 100-round magazine clip. Why in the world does anyone other than someone in the military need that? I don't see a legitimate sporting or hunting purpose to an assault rifle or to a 100-round clip. I just don't see it.
Does the Second Amendment have anything to do with hunting?
Of course it does. And read the opinion. And the U.S. Supreme Court was clear in their opinion. Congress still retains the right to monitor and to regulate Second Amendment usage.
And by doing so, they essentially are making these specialist weapons. I want you to really understand. Think about the implication of that, okay? So right now, there's a movement in this country by some people to label semi-automatic rifles specialist weapons by using them, the term military grade, or even labeling them assault weapons.
We must prohibit the sale of assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition magazines in Illinois. Of course, we must abide by the Second Amendment, but there is no place in our state for military-style assault weapons designed for rapid fire at human targets at close range.
But let's continue, shall we? Reading again from Carroll Quigley's book, Tragedy and Hope. He says, a period of amateur weapons, as opposed to specialist weapons, a period of amateur weapons is a period in which all men are roughly equal in military power. A majority can compel a minority to yield. And majority rule, or even democratic governments, tend to rise. That right there is a kill shot sniper bullet right through the temple of tyranny. Let's read that one more time. A period in which all men are roughly equal in military power, a majority can compel a minority to yield, and a majority rule, or even democratic government, tends to rise. That's very significant. You're on 970 WMAY.
Mr. Bishop.
What's up?
Thank you so much for serving our intellectual discussion. What did we do before Mr. Bishop's show?
I don't know, man.
I think there was a lot of dead air, actually.